Okay, this is Sunday, April 14th, 2013. We've been married 51 years, 1 month, and 14 days. No, a little more than 14 days, probably about 21 days. Anyway, this is the beginning of our trip to Galveston, where we're going to get on a cruise ship. And we're going to go to Cozumel, the Caymans, and Jamaica. After all this time, we're going to take our second honeymoon. And I'm sure it won't be as exciting as our first one. And I don't know if this ship is going to be as nice as those $7 a night cabins we rented outside of Paoli, Indiana. But anyway, we're going to find out. So we'll have a little more of this as we go along. And so, after about an hour's drive to Galveston, about a 2-hour ordeal of getting through customs and on board the ship, it was ahoy matey, hoist the mainsail, jabber the jib, dingy the thingy or whatever, and we were sailing. Out of Galveston Harbor, and for us anyway, into the great unknown. We settled into our little stateroom. It was compact but comfortable. Had a nice little balcony where you could sit or stand and watch the Gulf of Mexico go by. The guy that kept up the room for us was really great. He kept it very neat, very clean, and even made little towel animals for us every day. On board the ship, it was really easy to forget you were even on a ship. It felt more like it was some big Las Vegas hotel. Now, everybody that we talked to that had ever been on a cruise told us about the food. How much food, how great the food was. And I'd have to say that we weren't disappointed. For breakfast every morning, we would go up to the 12th deck to the Windjammer Buffet. And there was everything you could possibly want on that buffet. Even biscuits and gravy and grits if you wanted them. In the evening, we'd usually go down to the main dining room, and we shared a table there with 3 retired Dallas police officers. Really great people. Great fun, and the wait staff was also great. Mitchell and Ding were their names. Now Barbara would have kidnapped Ding and brought her home with us if she could have figured a way to do it. In addition to all the food you could possibly consume, there was a lot of entertainment on the ship. And a great variety of entertainment. All sorts of little combo bands to big production Las Vegas shows. We had the pleasure one evening of listening to 3 Las Vegas tenors that got on board while we were in Jamaica, and these guys were really great. Now, you can't haul a bunch of Texans around the Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean without having a country band. And we did have that great little band called the Bubba Feathers Band. Bubba Feathers is the son of Rockabilly Hall of Famer Charlie Feathers. And if you know who Charlie Feathers was, you're as old as I am, and we won't even get into that. And then there was this guy, how he got on. But it seems like it was only yesterday. Then I was deep around the road over you. Don't look so sad. Well, enough of that guy. In between the food and the entertainment, there was a lot of just kicking back and relaxing. Well, after sailing all day on Monday, we arrived at Cozumel on Tuesday morning. I guess Cozumel is a pretty popular vacation destination, so we weren't the only boat at the dock. The beaches there were pretty, but we weren't real impressed with the terrain of the island. We did notice that for some reason there sure were a lot of Mexicans there, though. Now, with all these ports, this pier was jammed with little old shops and vendors selling everything from diamonds to your typical flea market junk. And other than the pier shops, there was, oh no, we can't do this today, babe. We got other things planned. Yeah, as it was, we didn't really get to see a whole lot of the island because we had booked a ride on a submarine. That's right. My little wife, who everybody knows is afraid of getting water above her ankles, was all up for a submarine ride, 100 feet down. Quarters on this little sub, I guess you could say, were cozy. Probably wouldn't have been a good idea for anyone with claustrophobia. But it was a pretty neat experience. Wasn't as colorful and dynamic as we would have expected. And that was largely due to the fact there was no lighting outside the sub, and the deeper you got, the less the colors popped. We did get to see some pretty interesting things, though. The corals, this huge stingray we saw in his natural habitat. And we got to see a shark, probably about a 10-footer. Well, it was time to surface, and because we actually only had about 4 hours in Cozumel, by the time we got on our little shuttle boat back to the pier, it was about time to depart and set a course for the Grand Cayman. Wednesday morning, just about 9 o'clock, we arrived in Georgetown. Now, because of the shallow water here, we anchored just off the coast. That meant that we had to get off the ship and onto what is called a tender boat, and the tender boat took us from the ship to the pier. Here again on the pier there was a slew of shops and vendors selling their goods. There was one particular vendor that caught my interest, though, for some reason. Now here again we had booked a tour of the island, and once on the pier we found our little tour group and boarded our bus. Grand Cayman is a pretty small island. It's only about 22 miles long and 8 miles wide at its widest. Georgetown is kind of a quaint, kind of pretty little place. Among other things, it's known for rum and rum cake. So we stopped for a little while at the Tortuga Rum Cake Company and got a free sample. And while we were there, we also had a chance to mingle with some of the local pirates. Excuse me, sorry about that. Where was I? Okay, from there, we traveled on down the island to a little area that had a lot of shops, had some hotels, condos, business offices, and a little farmer's market. It was a pretty little place, nothing that really impressed Barb or I either one, but it was pretty, and we got our picture taken there. when we left this area, that's when this tour really went to hell. No, really, we went to hell. Now, the tour guide told us that somebody looked at this dead coral formation and said, "This is what hell must look like." Well, while we were there, we did catch a glimpse of a couple of little devils. Okay. I suppose most people travel to the Caymans for the beaches and the water, and that's where we headed next, to Tiki Beach. And the beach and the water were indeed beautiful. But after a cup of free rum punch and just a little bit of sand between our toes, we decided to grab a cab, head back to the pier, do a little bit more junk shopping, and catch our tender boat ride back to the ship. Then by sunset, we were off and on our way to Jamaica. We arrived in Falmouth, Jamaica about 8 o'clock on Thursday morning. Jamaica is a fairly large island, almost 150 miles long and over 50 miles wide at its widest point. Falmouth is on the north coast of Jamaica. Because of its size and the limited amount of time we had on shore, only about 6 hours total, we really only got to see a small portion of this island, but what we did see was really beautiful. It was by far the most enjoyable part of our trip. Again, we had booked ourselves on a tour, a bus tour. Once on the bus, we headed east on the Northern Coast Highway. The terrain of this island was very pretty. It was very hilly, had a variety of greenery, trees, and flowers. Our first stop was at a place called Dunn's River Falls. This is a very popular and a very beautiful area in Jamaica. I guess because of the beauty, it's a popular place for folks to get married, or tied to knot, as they say. The area around the falls and the falls themselves were really pretty. We didn't come prepared to do so, but most of the people we were with actually got into the river and climbed up the falls. Now that was a lot of fun to watch. And by the way, Barb says if we ever go back there, she for sure wants to do that. Some of the scenery there was more interesting than other scenery there. And of course, there was the typical shops and vendors, and now these guys were really aggressive. They came after you and they would not take no for an answer. From Dunn's River, we boarded our bus again and traveled east to a very popular area called 7 Mile Beach. And we stopped at a place called Shaw Park for a free shot of rum and a free lunch. Yeah, we actually got a free lunch. Here again, the beaches and the water were just really beautiful. But after an hour or so, after lunch, after hanging out for a while, we boarded a catamaran and took a little ride back up the coast, just a little way to Ocho Rio. And we're told that Ocho Rio is very popular with celebrities. We're told that Barbra Streisand and Mick Jagger actually have vacation homes there. Wow, we were really impressed. Anyway, back in Ocho Rio, we got off the catamaran, got back on our tour bus, and we headed back to Falmouth and back to the ship. Once we left Jamaica, all that was left was 2 days of sailing back north to Galveston. We spent most of this time just relaxing, checking out some of the areas on the ship that we hadn't seen, like the ice rink. Now, there was no bank on this ship, but we did discover an area that a lot of people went to deposit money. However, I understand it was a little bit tough withdrawing anything after you deposited it. Sunday morning, April 21st, we arrived back in Galveston. Just about sunup. Deboarding the ship was a lot quicker and easier than boarding had been. It had been a great little adventure for a couple of old country folks. A whole week without a phone call or somebody's problem to fix, and that was pretty nice. Of course, that's not anything we'd want to ever get used to. And we may never take another cruise. But in the meantime, we've got some pretty neat memories, a whole bunch of pictures, and it'll be something nice to think about from time to time.